Well, it is good to be with you as we are beginning another Bible study. Welcome. My name is Kevin Young. I am the lead clergy for Christ Table, and we are bringing you this Advent Jesse Tree Bible study. Now, this is a really cool study, and if you'd like to find out more about it, you can visit that URL right there at the bottom of your screen, go.christtable.today/Jesse Tree. There you'll find information on all of these days, how you can participate in it, and we would love to have you join us along the journey. And if you'd like to find out more about Christ Table and who we are and how you can help support, you can visit that URL right there, www.christtable.today. Also at that website, that Jesse Tree website, you can get one of these. You can get the Bible study guides that go along with this, though you don't necessarily need to have it. We'll have everything that you need right here as we go along the way, and even a pack of ornaments that go along with each and every day of the study. Now, today we begin in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 5. And our journey through Jesse Tree is essentially going to be us attempting to understand the story of God from the very beginning of creation all the way to Jesus, to try to see a bigger picture of this birth of Jesus, why it was so important, why it impacted the world, and how God had been hinting at this for a very long time. Now, rather than start with creation, though, we're going to start actually with the reason why this is called a Jesse Tree study. And to do that, we have to jump, as I said, into Isaiah 11, which is kind of in the middle of the story. And so here we go. Verse 1. Out of the stump of David's family will grow a shoot. And so we're kind of speaking metaphorically here. Out of the stump of David's family will grow a shoot, yes, a new branch bearing fruit from the old root. And the Spirit of the Lord will come to rest on him, and the Spirit of wisdom and understanding will rest upon him. Now, what we need to understand about this passage is it's being written about David. Now, you may have heard the name David, but if not, David was a king in Israel's history. David was, though, not just any king. David was the king. David was the guy that all other kings essentially were measured against. David had some issues in his life along the way, had some problems, made some mistakes, but it said that David was a man, a person after God's own heart. And God blessed David, and one of the promises that God made was that the Messiah, the one who would come to be the one in Israel who would set them free permanently, would come from the line of David. And so that's that imagery there that's saying, out of the stump of David's family will grow a shoot. Yes, a new branch bearing fruit from the old root. So sometimes I think about family trees, and some people's family trees don't branch a lot, and some people's family trees branch everywhere. And some people's family trees, there are really life-giving, fruit-bearing branches where you look at and you say, wow, I'm really proud of that side of the family, or I'm really happy with those stories of those individuals. That's a real beautiful part of the tree. And then for some of us, there are other parts of the family tree that are ones that we try to avoid looking at. We might even say that those areas of the tree are dead to us. Maybe they don't bear any fruit for us in our lives. Maybe there are no leaves or anything good about them. And when we think about this idea of a family tree, this is kind of the picture that's being painted here, is of a family tree of David. And what we see in the picture painted here is that things were not good in that family tree. What's a stump? A stump is essentially the leftover, the remnants of a dead tree. But not just a dead tree usually, but it's a tree that has been intentionally cut down, right? There is just the stump that's left there. This is what happened to David and his family. Because of disobedience in the generations of David's family, because of disobedience from God and the people of Israel, the line of David was cut down. The kings ended. They went into captivity. They came back and they were no longer rulers over their own land. They were no longer rulers of their own way of doing life. And they wondered, where was God? God had made all of these promises. Where was he in all of this? And God says, I know that family tree that you were so proud of, David's family tree, the one that all of the hope of the people, all of the hope of the nation was placed in. I know that that tree's gone. It's dead. It's in the long past. But don't give up on it yet. Don't give up hope. There may well yet be reason to think that God may pull a rabbit out of a hat. God may pull a miracle. God may pull the miraculous out of a complete mess. Yes, a new branch bearing fruit from the old root. And the Spirit of God will rest on him. And in the Old Testament, this is a way of saying this person is going to be different. It's going to be unlike anything you've ever seen. Very few people in the Old Testament were said that the Spirit of the Lord rested on them. David is one, and this heir to the throne of David that's going to come by surprise as a shoot growing from the root that everybody thought was dead, was lifeless, was not able to bear anything good ever again or bring any life from. It will, and the Spirit of the Lord is going to rest on this individual's shoulders. And so if you have the ornaments for today, then you know that the stump is today's ornament to hang on the tree. And you'll see down there on the edge of the stump just that little shoot that's growing up off of the root, that little branch, that hope. That's Jesus. The stump is the family of Jesse. David was Jesse's son. And so this is Jesse's family tree. From that stump, a root will grow. The promised one, the Messiah. Now, if you were to begin to read a little earlier than we started, if you skipped before Isaiah chapter 11, back into chapter 10, you would see this picture painted of grand forests, incredibly huge trees of Assyria. And the picture that's being painted here is the line of David, Jesse's son, was leveled. All of the trees, all the kings, all of the heirs, all of that forest from Jesse has been leveled. Everything's been burned. All that's left are stumps. But Isaiah in chapter 10 paints this picture of Assyria, who would have been the enemy, who would have been people who didn't recognize God, who didn't respect the God of Israel. Now, in place of David and Jesse's forest, now there are all of these other grand trees that are an offense to God, are an offense to God's promises, are standing in the place of where God's trees should be. The tree of Jesse, the tree of David, the tree of Solomon, and their heirs. And what we see here is this juxtaposition in Isaiah between these lofty, proud, grand trees and then that little unimpressive shoot. Sometimes in life, don't we feel that way? Sometimes in life, don't you? I do this. I don't know if you do this, but oftentimes in life we look around and everything feels like it's going well and perfectly for everyone else. Oftentimes those people who we look at and say, you're a miserable human being. You're far from God. You don't treat your family well. You're terrible to your employees. You're kind of a loathsome individual. And yet I look at you and everything seems to be going your way. You've got a nicer house. You've got better toys. You've got a better job that pays more. Everything in your life, when I look at Instagram, seems happy and perfect. And I look around at my life and I think, I'm trying to serve you, God. I'm trying to do the right things. I'm doing everything that you asked me to do, and my life feels miserable, and their life feels miraculous, feels amazing. This is the juxtaposition that's going on in this passage. These Assyrian trees, this forest that had replaced Jesse's forest, had replaced the line of David. Isaiah looks at and says, you may feel as though the lofty and the proud trees have won and have everything. But this unimpressive shoot, this little root, this branch, you need to realize that God does really impressive things with really unimpressive people and really unimpressive situations. Think about that for just a moment. That is truly, really the story of the Bible. And you're going to see that happen over and over and over again over these 25 days as we journey through Advent and through the Jesse tree. You're going to continue to see God use unimpressive people, unimpressive circumstances in order to do impressive things. And I believe that there is a message in there to us as well, that perhaps it is not the lofty and proud who should feel as though everything is going their way, but it's the unimpressive. If you feel like you are a forest that has been chopped down over and again, that you have been burnt more times than you can count, don't count yourself out. In fact, those lofty and proud trees, they get leveled. The stump of Jesse, that root that is David growing out of the stump, ends up changing the world. In Bethlehem, starting in a manger, 25 days from today. And this individual that the Spirit of the Lord is going to rest on, and that's an allusion to the Messiah, whom we believe is Jesus. The text goes on in Isaiah 11 to say, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, he will delight in obeying the Lord. He will not judge by appearance. What's being painted here now by Isaiah is a picture of a different type of ruler, a different type of king, one who rules in ways that are not by force, by compelling, by wickedness, by destruction. Why was the forest leveled? Well, because Assyria came in and leveled the forest of Jesse. Why is Assyria's forest leveled? Well, because another group, another tribe, another people came in and levels that forest. And God says, this shoot, this root that's growing out of this stump of Jesse, this Messiah, this Jesus whom is coming, it's going to be a different type of ruler. It's going to be a different type of king. They didn't quite understand this because they kind of thought that he was going to come and be a powerful leader of the nation. That's why they didn't really recognize Jesus whenever he showed up. because God was doing the impressive with the unimpressive. They were looking for the impressive. He's not going to judge by appearance. Think about that. If you feel like your forest has been burned down, if you feel like you have been just left in the dust heap of life, if you feel like everyone else gets things to go their way simply because of appearance, how things look, not this ruler. He's not going to judge by appearance, nor will he make a decision based on hearsay. He will give justice to the poor. Focus on this. This ruler will be born poor. Jesus will be born the poorest of the poor. Maybe we'll get into that, talk about Nazareth and what comes out of Nazareth at some point. He will give justice to the poor. He will make fair decisions for the exploited. The earth will shake at the force of his word. As we journey through Advent, I think that there is a lesson, a message in there for us, that this is the promise that was told of the Messiah, of Jesus. This is also the life that Jesus lived while he was here, giving justice to the poor, making fair decisions for the exploited. If we're not doing those things, not just during the month of December, if we're not doing those things as a way of life, 24/7, 365, we may not be mirroring that shoot off of the stump. We may actually be more mirroring those lofty and proud trees, which one day will be cut down. And one breath from his mouth will destroy the wicked. He will wear righteousness like a belt and truth like an undergarment. We'll finish here. What I see in this passage is that God is trustworthy, that God will come through. This is the story of Advent. This is the story of the arrival of Christmas. That when things seem their darkest and most impossible, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. Jesse's tree was dead. David, the great hope, the line of kings that were to bring the Messiah, was gone. Long gone. Yet God finds a way. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years after this passage was written, God finds a way. Because God is trustworthy. And not just God was trustworthy, but we're going to continue to see this over and again as we walk through these 25 days. That God both was, is, and will be trustworthy. Not just for the people of Israel, not just for the line of Jesse, but God was, is, and will be trustworthy for you as well. It's been good to be with you today. Looking forward to being back with you tomorrow for day 2. Until that time, happy reading.